This tutorial will be the beginning of our photo collage kind of work where we put everything together. So first we're going to jump into Photoshop. I've got a photo here. I'm going to click and go down to the object selection tool. Drag around this image. It's made my selection now, so I'll click on the lock to unlock that layer, go up to layer, layer mask, reveal selection. There we go, and it's got my image and it's made the mask. Now I'm going to Command minus, let's reduce that down a bit, and I'm just going to make the image size just to, cancel, sorry, not the image size, the canvas size. Image, canvas size, just going to make it a wee bit bigger, 400, tab, 400, it's growing out from the center. There we go, just made my page a wee bit bigger. Now usually what I do is I start off by coming down here, making a new page, and I fill it with white. Now some quick keys, if I hit X, if I hit D, it's going to give me pure black, pure white. Black is the foreground, white is the background color. X is going to swap them. And while I've got white in the foreground, if I go with this layer here, if I go Command delete, it will fill it with the background color. If I go Option or Alt delete, we'll fill it with the foreground color. Like just a quick fill tool, and I can check it behind there, so I've got a nice white background. Now I'm going to start to bring things in, so I'll jump back to Illustrator. Here I've got my vector, so I'm going to grab all of that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab almost all of it. I'm going to leave a bit of this shoulder out, so I've just selected it through here. Command copy, back to Photoshop, Command V. Now when it pastes it in, make sure you choose Smart Object. Sometimes it comes in the default as pixels. Go OK. What this means, I'll just chuck that layer up to the front. I lost my square around it, so I'll go Command T for transform. It means that when I scale it as a smart object, it's kind of scaling a vector. So no matter what size I scale it to, it's going to be good. As soon as I rasterize it or change it into pixels, if I try and scale it from there it's going to affect that image. So I've got it where I want it. Hit return or enter. Now it's going to go through. It says rendering, or in this case it'll be rasterizing, changing it from vector to pixels. Now if I scale it, I will start to have problems. So at this point here, I'm just going to get a paintbrush. get a color, and I'll make a new layer, and then I'm just going to get normal brush. If I use the square bracket keys left and right, I can make it bigger or smaller, the brush size. Oh, the opacity is down on 16, so I'm just going to bump that back up to 100. Now if I go between these two layers and I hold down the Alt key or Option, I can clip them together. So now that pink colour that I've done is going to come through and affect the parts that I've done. While I'm still on there, I can come in here, paint, you can see it's just affecting the image because it's clipped to it. Now, before when I said it had rasterized, it hadn't, it had rendered it. You can tell because it's got this little icon, so I can actually still scale it. As soon as I like what I've got, I can then go up to Layer, Rasterize, Smart Object. Once I've done that, that icon in the corner is gone. Now if I try and scale it, it will have an effect. The reason that you rasterize it is there's some things that you can do to the image that you can't do while it's still a smart object. It gives you more options. Now this image here, I'm going to drag that up so it's in front of the other image. If I double click on it, it's going to bring up the layer style. Now with this, these sliders here give you a lot of control. If I use this, it's affecting the top image, which is the photograph. So all the darkest areas are disappearing. All the lightest areas will start to disappear. This is the bottom image, so all the darkest images will show through, all the darkest parts. All the lightest parts show through, so you can see pretty quickly because it's white. It just jumps straight through. So I might go for the lightest areas. What you'll find as well is you'll see that it's quite pixelated because it's getting to a point and it's making a cut. If I hold the Option key down, I can split the triangle, and now it's softening. It's saying, okay, all the pixels to here, to this tone, are gone, but then, like a percentage of grey, it smooths the transition between these areas. I can go OK, Command plus, I'm just going to blow up on this, and then again with this image here, I'm going to go Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All. Gives me a mask. I'll make the brush a bit smaller. I've got black as my foreground color, so as a mask I can now run here, so spacebar changes to the hand tool and lets you move it around, and I can clear up some of these areas. So some bits I might say, okay, I don't want those lines to come across the eye. Make that brush a bit smaller by using the bracket keys again. You know, what bits do I want to keep and what bits do I want to knock out. I might have it so that the line comes to the eyebrow but doesn't go through it. See, cleaning up some of these lines. I might stop it where it hits the eye. Take that bit off. And take off some of these areas. So the finer parts where they start to hit. Command minus. I might take out some bigger chunks here. So it looks like the lines come up and I hit this and then they stop. I might click on the image, go to the magic wand tool. Actually it's the photo that I want to click on. Some of these areas here, shift, that I thought I might be able to cut a bit out of. So I'm going to go to the brush again. I might change it this time to a pastel, enlarge up the square bracket, and with the mask, black is my foreground colour. You can see it's starting to eat in a wee bit. Command D, just changing that bottom area. So now if I have a look, so I've got these drawings, so I can select a drawing and maybe I'll grab this one here. Select it, Command C to copy. This time I go into the channels. I make a new channel because it's a black and white, black drawing. I start off with white, so Command delete because my background color here is white, so it just fills with white. Command V, paste, and Command T. Just gonna scale that a bit, hit return. Command D to get rid of the selection. Command L. So I've got to try and make this black and white. So I want to get rid of the grey. Now at this stage I can either inverse the selection on the layer or I can go Command I at this stage, select it, jump back to layers, add a layer, I'll make a new layer, and now I can fill this with whatever colour I want. Go with orange, again Option delete or Alt delete. It's going to fill it with that colour. Command D to get rid of the selection, and again now I can just move that around. I might line it up with the eye a little bit. If I want, because of this is looking a bit blurry, I can go Filter, Sharpen, Unsharpen Mask, and to a degree I can start to tidy it up. You can see the amount is pushed right up to 500. The radius is up to 26.2, which is usually 1, but it started to harden this line up a bit. I go OK. I'm going to, let's go get a graduated fill. Gradient tool, and let's bring this, and maybe I'm going to change that to green. Oh, it's a pretty wild colour. Go OK. And now with the gradient tool, oops. So make a new layer, and now with the gradient tool on that new layer, okay, I've got that. Option, go between the two layers, clip them together. Now the colours only affecting in here. With this again, I can go layer, layer mask, reveal all. And now if I paint on there with black, okay, and maybe I'll pick a soft brush this time. I can bring the orange back into some of these areas. So that's the mask, masking the colour. So I'm cutting this colour out and it's showing the orange underneath. This one, if I click on it, layer, layer mask, reveal all, just to bring a layer in. Now with this one, just moving the brush down, and again I might make it a little bit harder because it's on super soft at the moment. I can chop out some of these bits. Now if I hold down the command key and I click on this image, it's actually going to give us a mask around that image again. So it means it'll hold the border. So if I want to chop things out, so I'm on my mask, I'm using black to chop out, but I'm using the selection from this so that I know that I'm chopping out just things that are on that particular face. These bits through here, it's just chopping out on those lines, it's just letting those lines come back through. Command D, Command 0, so I'm just moving it back out. This one again, maybe there's some more of these lines that I want to select, get rid of. If I get the big charcoal one again, I'll put up to a big size, and we'll just right square bracket. Now again I'm still in the mask. It's adding in some texture, so it's deleting it but in more of a textural way because of this big brush. Let's have a look at these images. So now something that's got a little bit more texture coming through. Let's try this image here. I just use the lasso tool, just a selection tool to get it. Copy. Back in here, again, back to the channels. new channel. I always start off with white. White's the background color. Command delete will fill with the background color. Command V lands it in there. Command T, because I want to get it a bit bigger than that. Return. Command D to get rid of that selection. Command L, again, it's just trying to make everything black and white. Trying to push it a wee bit, but not so much. Well, I mean, that gives you a nice pattern as well if it's contrasty, but I'm going to try and keep a little bit of the grayness in there. Command I, hit the selection tool, layers, and click a layer, make a new layer. This is where it comes up. I can always change the color afterwards, so let's go for blue. Foreground color, so Alt or Option, delete. There it is on my layer. Command D to get rid of the selection. And you can see now as it comes through with the channels, it has all that transparency. If it's a 50% grey, it has 50% transparency. So now with this one, I can also, the thing is as well, when there's no selection there, if you go, let's change the color first. So I'll make it a slightly different shade of blue. If you go Alt or Option delete and fill with the foreground color, it fills the whole layer. So I'll do it here, Option delete, fills the whole layer, it covers everything up. Command Z. If I hold down the Shift key as well, it keeps transparency. So Alt or Option because it's the foreground color, Shift to keep transparency, delete. And you can see the only area that it's affected is this area through here. Let's, again, we can try our graduated fill. This time we'll do it a bit differently. If we hit Command and we hit that selection, so it's selected just that area. Now if we get our gradient tool, oops, and pick a pretty crazy gradient, go OK, and bring the gradient through here. You can see that it's coming through this area here. The color change is because it's on multiply, so we'll put it to normal. Try it again. Alright, now it looks much more like what we put up there. Command D, and again, the same thing. If I want to put a mask on that, layer mask, reveal all. Get a paintbrush, and black is my foreground color. I can start adding into that bit by bit. So now move that elsewhere. I'm going to come up to the photograph here, make a new layer right above it. Draw around part of that head. I'm going to fill it bit of a more dynamic red. Alt delete, so I've filled with the foreground color. Command delete. Option. Option just seems to have cancelled it out. So it may be because I've used the layer options on here. Let's have a look. We'll just take it back. It is. So because of the because it's a certain color, it's also knocking it out. Right, so we'll drag that down. To above the other image. Option. Clip. So now it's affecting this image down here. And I'm just going to put it through some of the blending modes. And the nice thing is now is with Photoshop is you can see it actually actively happening. Darken, multiply, color burn, so just flicking through them, and you can just do this visually now, which is much easier than trying to work out what was happening before. I'm going to go for light and dodge add, and I'm also going to, with the paintbrush, add some more of this in, try and soften some of those areas. Coming in a wee bit slowly again. Layer mask, reveal all. With black, I can come back in and bring that image back. And essentially, this is the great ability of using masking is that nothing is ever gone. So I can take this right back to its original imagery. So for instance, this image here, if I duplicate it, and in this case I'm going to double click because I was having a problem with this. Take that off, and I'm going to use the selection tool on this image, eat into it a bit, option to minus some of that out, maybe it was a bit too much. I can also, at the moment it's on a 30 sample, so I'll put it on 11, so it's going to select a much smaller area. I can also do things where I can kind of grow the selection out, but I'm going to go with this. I've got my layer mask there. I'll delete because it's got black as the foreground color. Just going to switch off the layer underneath so I can see exactly what's happening. And I'm going to add some more. Option delete. Bring in the black. I've gone Command D, deselect, and just with the paintbrush tool, back on a normal kind of brush, a bit smaller with the left bracket. I'm going to take out some of these areas here. I'm essentially doing an overlay so that I can do a version of what I was trying to enact before. So we have this one, which has this happening to it, so we can't put a colour on this without it being affected and just knocking out like it did before. So now I've got this image over the top, and this one I can actually add a colour to. So if I put a new layer, and let's go for something really gaudy. Let's go for green. Option delete. Hold down the Alt with the Option key. Clip it. And then again with this I have that option to cycle through and see if I can find something that I like the look of. Soft light's interesting. Oh, saturation's pretty good. I might just go back up to lighten. I like the light bits that are coming through, and of course I can dilute this down with the opacity. I can also double click on this green, and I can let bits come through again. So this is the dark area, this is the photo coming through. This is the lightest areas of that photo coming through. This is the green itself, which is essentially just going to switch on and off because it's a solid colour. So it's really just playing with the image underneath. So I'll bring a little bit of that in. Alt if I want to split it. Soften it. Okay, so we're starting to get a bit of a build-up happening here. I'm going to jump. I'll jump back to Illustrator. This time I'm just going to grab a selection. Maybe grab this. Copy. Back to Photoshop. Paste. See, it comes in as pixels. We want it as a smart object. Now, Command minus, because I can make these lines enormous. Command 0, and so again, like we were doing the other day, some of these patterns, the way they can come through can be really interesting. Okay, you can see at the moment it goes behind that, so maybe I'll leave it there. I'm going to move it up so it's over top of that drawing. Oh, actually no, it won't. I'll leave it there. It was better there. So I can put a mask on this layer mask, reveal all, and again, black is my foreground color. What bits do we want to knock out? Do we want to knock it out when that line hits the green? Oh, Command Z, I quite like that little triangular bit, so I'm just going to try and clear up the eye a little bit. That's probably our focus, and it shall clean it right back to this point. I can also make a new layer. Get it yellow this time, and I can paint around some of these lines. This might be a bit where I need to rasterize it, so I'll try Option, Joining. No, don't actually have to rasterize it yet to do that. So I can start to play with some of these lines as well if I find them just a bit too heavy-handed. I can do it randomly. Or try and control it. Yeah, it's just because it's a clipping. Make the brush a bit smaller. Clipping mask. It's joining onto this sort of image. So I'm just going to go back here, grab one more, go for this area here, Command C, copy it, again channels, new channel. Oh, sorry, I forgot to Command D. I'll go Alt Delete. Oh, Command Delete because now the background is white. Command V to put this. Command T so I can scale it up. Command D to get rid of that selection. Command L. Make it white. Bring the blacks in a little bit. Command I. And I'll go right up the top. New layer. Oops, looks like I lost my selection. Maybe I didn't select it. I've got that. Select. Layers. This new layer. Just going to pick a grey. Alt Delete. Option Delete. Command D. I'm going to move it around to try cycling through. There's actually nothing that I like there, so I select a colour through here, so I'll get that pink. Foreground colours pink, so Option Shift Delete. Now let's see what the things cycle like. I quite like the colour burn. The way it affects this image, so I'm just dragging it around within that space to see if I can find an area. It becomes more interesting, so I cover their lips somewhat. Now one more, I've got this layer selected. I'm going to go Command A, select all, Command C for copy, into the channels, new channel. I always start off with white, so in this case Command delete, filling it with the background color, Command V, and Command T. I'm just going to scale it up slightly. Command D. I'm going to change this to the quick selection tool, the paintbrush one. Make it a bit bigger. And I'm just roughly shift, seeing if I can select around the head. Delete. It's going to change it to white. Try that again. Command D. It's disappearing for some reason, so I'm just going to get the paintbrush tool, change the foreground color to white. Command D. Must have been a selection there that I couldn't really see. So remember, just black is going to mask and white will let it show through. That's why when we get to this stage, we inverse it. Command I. Now if I load that selection, go back to my layers, go right up the top, you can see if I get the selection tool, changes to a white arrow, that means I can drag the selection around a bit. And at this stage what I do is I get a paintbrush, I make it literally as small as I can, so I'll try with one. Maybe I can go up to 2, we'll find out, and I usually just start off with black. Make this new layer. That was the bit I was missing. So I'm literally just scribbling inside this image. It's like a weird kind of drawing. The thing that's nice about it is if you don't take your hand off the mouse, if you keep drawing, it starts to paint things in. So what I'm looking for here is I'm trying to find the eye. You see the eye is appearing there. Now with this, it'll be coming down the nose. And I'm going to try a different area to see what the difference is by changing it to 2. change the color of it. Sometimes I do it so it looks like a kind of like a biro pen. Alright, I'll change it up to 9, just so you can, whoops, just so you can see what's really happening. Here we can see it on the white now. So you can see that it's actually painting the image in a bit like a drawing. So you can see the shirt coming through now. The thing that's nice is that I haven't taken my finger off the mouse. If you keep your finger down, it completely draws it in. If you take it off and you start drawing again, it still paints the image, but can you see it's darkening slightly? So you can actually get kind of layer upon layer. Let's try a different color, different size again. Now you'll really see it with the head coming in now. So there's the other eye. The nice thing is the thinner brush, see, it still keeps the eye, but it just goes over it a bit darker, so you can keep layering and layering up. Command D. Let's switch these other layers off so we can see it. You can end up with quite a nice effect. The thin line is actually really nice. Again, we've got all those functions to change it, or I can just try change it down to transparency, or I can double click on it and again see what things will start to break through it. You can see it starting to shatter through this line a wee bit. Alt. Okay. Hard light and what's the bit that I'm not so keen on? I can't even find it now. I'm trying to find the red bit on the chin. And maybe the green is a bit harsh as well. Change it to a blue. And try deep yellow. Alt Shift to get the transparency. Okay, it's on color burn. Go for linear dodge. Try and lighten it. Lighten it back a bit, or I'll double click and see if those underlining layers can do anything. So you can see the blacks coming through. It's coming through. It's probably better with the black bits coming through. And I'm just going to keep it like that. I'm not going to split the line work. And what happens if we give it a background color? Oh, we lose some of these things because of the transparency function. I'll try Command delete for the pink, Alt delete for the orange. D will take it back to black and white. Command delete for white. No, we'll leave it. We'll leave it there.